Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, back with another video, this time on the Apple Watch Series 4. Now, if you've been around my channel for a while, if you've seen some of my latest videos, you'll know that the Apple Watch has been a pretty important product in my life. I've lost over 100 pounds using it, and I've been using it since the Series 0 or whatever that Apple Watch name, the very first Apple Watch. And I've owned the Series 0, the Series 2, the Series 3, and now we're taking a look at the Series 4, and I gotta say guys, this is the most ambitious Apple Watch that Apple has ever released. So when we're talking about the Apple Watch Series 4, I think the first thing that definitely stands out is that brand new design. It has a much more rounded design than the previous Apple Watches before it, which kind of looked like square, big, bulky boxes in comparison to this design. If you go around the whole watch, you'll notice that it just has these rounded corners. It's very nice. It's almost like a squircle kind of watch, a square and a circle mixed together. And because of that new design, it actually has a much bigger display than the Series 3, Series 1, Series 0 watches, and it's about 30% bigger. This is the 44mm version that I'm wearing, and you get a much larger screen experience in about the same exact body as the Apple Watch Series 3. It's actually not much bigger, so from going from a 42mm to a 44mm, I don't really notice any size difference on my wrist. Now, aside from just looking really good with that extra big screen and no big black bezels around it, it does actually make using the Apple Watch a much more pleasant experience. Any little thing like touching the Apple Watch to hit some of those smaller touch targets, looking and reading at text, seeing pictures, anything you do with your Apple Watch, just by having that bigger display makes it feel less cramped, makes it actually much easier to use. And again, most of all, that big display just looks really nice, especially when you have a nice watch face on. Normally people might give you a lot of grief to talk about how nice a product looks, but you're wearing it every day, so it has to look nice. If it's not gonna look nice, if it's gonna look big, bulky, and ugly, you're just not gonna wanna wear it every day. And the Apple Watch Series 4 is something you're gonna wanna put on every day. It's also 0.7mm thinner, which might not sound like a lot, but when you're wearing this watch every day, the little thinness that you get from that 0.7mm is actually really big. So if you have like a shirt cuff collar, it actually makes it fitting under the watch a lot easier. And it's just more comfortable to wear throughout the entire day. It looks less bulbous on your wrist. It's just a really nice improvement to have a thinner watch. Now, aside from just making the overall watch experience easier and more pleasant on your eyes, the bigger screen also allows for some redesigned watch faces and some more advanced complications, which a lot of people are calling super complications, that give you more display data, more enhanced data to see at a glance. These aren't just static complications. They can actually have sliders on them. They can actually read you text. And in the infograph analog face in the middle one, you actually get this really nice bar graph that gives you a ton of information on that complication. The infograph digital face shows a lot of nice information there, and it actually has all of those super complications I mentioned earlier, and you can kind of go ahead and tweak those and customize it to how you like. It's a really nice digital watch face. Actually, when the modular watch face first was on the Series 0 Apple Watch, that used to be my favorite watch face and I used it a lot. But my favorite watch face so far that I've been using the whole time is the infograph analog face. This gives you a ton of information, and you can customize that if you want to show less information or if you just want to make it as dense as possible like I'm doing on my watch. And it actually allows you to get super complications in the corner of the watch face as well, so you can have up to 8 complications on this watch face, which just gives you really quick access to your favorite apps, favorite info like weather. Maybe you have a third-party application like Things that I use, or maybe you want to see reminders, calendar appointments, or you want to use your walkie-talkie feature. All of those things can fit on the infographic analog watch face, and you get just a bunch of information, which is really super helpful because when you look at your Apple Watch, you just want to get as much information as possible. You just want to see that information quickly. So say you have a calendar appointment, or if you have a reminder, you just want to be able to quickly see that information and deal with it right then and there. There's also some other new watch faces as well, like full screen watch faces that have fire, water, vapor. These are pretty cool looking, especially when you're first looking at them, although they don't really provide too much information. So although they look really cool, I'm not finding myself using them pretty much at all. Another improvement to the Series 4 Apple Watch face is actually the inclusion of the digital haptic crown. Now, when I first heard of a haptic crown on the Apple Watch, I wasn't sure how good of a feature that was gonna be, if it was gonna be gimmicky. Apple has always been good with the haptic feedback on its latest phones, and it's no different here on the Digital Crown. Simple things like scrolling through a list, every time you just hit a new item, it clicks, and it really does feel like you're just using a mechanical watch. If you're adjusting the time on the Crown, you just feel a click every time. Feels very mechanical. It is a subtle but very nice feeling to interacting with the Apple Watch, and I really, really like it. Apple's also included louder speakers in the Apple Watch Series 4. They say they're up to 50% louder, and yeah, they get pretty loud and they sound really good, especially when you're making phone calls or using the new walkie-talkie feature. You could just hear the person you're talking to super clearly. Unfortunately, Apple doesn't allow music playback or podcast playback through the inbuilt speakers on the watch. I actually think they're good enough to do that now. So I'd really like to see Apple bring, just music playback or podcast playback through the watch. Apple also moved the microphone to the side of the Apple Watch as well, getting it away from the speakers, reduces the echo, makes phone calls super crisp and clear. Anytime I've called people on my Apple Watch, I haven't told them. I said, hey, how do I sound? They said, oh, you sound great. Why? Is there an issue? Is there low reception? And it's like, no, I'm just seeing because I'm actually calling you on my Apple Watch. So moving that microphone to the right side makes it really good. And Apple actually has a new feature where you could just raise to talk to Siri. And I think moving that microphone to the side makes it activate a little clearer. And it's been super responsive, and it's been a great feature just to pull up your watch and talk to Siri. I've been really enjoying that feature. Makes you feel like James Bond. It's a really cool feature. And just not having to say, hey, S word all the time when you just want to get something really quick, like the weather or a reminder. It might not sound like a big deal, but it makes everything faster, and using the Apple Watch, everything's just gotta be fast, quick actions. Oh boy, and speaking of fast, the S4 chip on the Apple Watch is super fast. Actually, it's one of the biggest improvements on the Apple Watch. I don't think enough people cover just how fast the improvements on the Apple Watch Series 4 are. So if you've been using the Apple Watch before, or if you've never used an Apple Watch before, Apple's been having to deal with speed issues for quite some time. The Series 0 was really slow. Improvements to the Series 1 and Series 2 were there, and then with the Series 3 Apple Watch and watchOS 4, Apple implemented a dock feature so you can load apps in the background and have them constantly load it, so you could just quickly get to them and they just load instantly. So you'd have your most important, most used apps in the docks, and maybe you wouldn't have maybe some other apps that you use less frequently in the dock, and they might have a spinning circle. Even on the Series 3 watch, they might take a second or two to load. That is pretty much eliminated on the Series 4 Apple Watch. You could go to any app, even if it's not loaded on your dock, you press it and it loads almost instantly. And that S4 chip is super powerful. I don't think it's getting enough credit. I've seen things online that say it's almost as powerful as an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 6S. And I'm inclined to believe that. This thing just makes everything launch super quick. Animations are really good on it. The Apple Watch is getting some really powerful chips in here, especially considering the size of this device. You're just getting so much speed and so much power, and it makes the user experience very smooth. So Apple said they improved the battery life on the Series 4 Apple Watch to actually give you 6 hours of workout time. I haven't been able to really fully test that, and I'm not sure if I exactly believe the extra 6 hours. Maybe if you're doing a full workout as soon as you have the battery charged to 100%, maybe it runs to 6 hours. Honestly, I haven't been able to do a 6-hour workout to really test those claims. That's a lot of working out. But I do find that the Apple Watch Series 4 does have a slightly worse battery life than the Series 3 Apple Watch. I find that I end my day around 50 to 60% if I'm just going about a normal day. If I'm doing a workout, I can expect that to maybe be 50%, 40%, sometimes if it's a long workout, all the way down to 20%. If you're using the cellular on the Apple Watch, if you completely ditch your phone, I think you get about a day's battery life. I used it completely on cellular for just a day, didn't have it connected to my phone, and it lasted the whole day, but when I got home, I definitely needed to put it on the charger. Or maybe it's just that I'm using the Series 4 much more, that I'm getting lower battery life throughout the day. Again, I wouldn't say it's bad battery life, but compared to the usage I got with the Series 3, and that's really all I compare it against, I'm definitely getting about 15% less battery life at the end of the day. So obviously with the Series 4 Apple Watch, it does come with watchOS 5, and that will work on the Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3 Apple Watch as well, and that does bring some really nice improvements to the user experience. So some of my favorite features so far with watchOS 5 have been just the improved third-party clients that are available. So Apple has given more freedom to third-party clients to utilize the resources of the Apple Watch. That includes things like audio playback. So if you are an Audible member, you can actually listen listen to audiobooks on your Apple Watch now, which is really cool. If you have a third-party podcast app like Overcast, you can actually listen to that on your watch as well. And the third-party clients can actually access the Siri watch face as well, so that's just opening up the Apple Watch even more to third-party apps. Apple also included its own podcast app in the watchOS 5, and I'm a huge podcast listener, so that has been one of my favorite features. I've been listening to podcasts on my walks, on my runs, and it's just so nice to leave the phone behind, put on a pair of AirPods, and just listen to some nice podcasts as you're running. Apple also added some improved workout features with watchOS 5, so things like running, it'll measure your cadence, it'll tell you when you need to pick up your pace if you're running behind on a lap or something like that. Those features are really cool. They actually have been helpful to me because when I run, especially when I'm getting around that third mile, I definitely slow down a lot. So getting a little notification on your wrist telling you to pick up the pace is really helpful, and just having that information available in the activity app when you're done with your run is very helpful. Apple also added the ability to do competitions. I actually just finished my first competition and I won, so I'm super happy about that, and I got a nice little medal. So I really like Apple adding some social aspects to working out with your Apple Watch, because before it was a little lonely. Even though you could earn medals and share them with your friends, this is just another step forward. And I actually want to see more directions to the social aspect of activity on your Apple Watch. I really like competitions feature, so hopefully Apple adds some more stuff in the future. And another watchOS 5 feature that's been really cool and something I thought was gonna be way gimmicky is actually the walkie-talkie feature. And it's definitely cool just to have that quick little conversation if you need something or you just wanna say something really quick. It works really quick, really responsive, and it's always available. So definitely like that walkie-talkie feature. It makes a lot of sense on the Apple Watch. Apple actually added a complete ceramic back to the entire back of the Apple Watch now. It comes in this black ceramic back, and that actually allows cellular reception to go through as opposed to metal. So reception has been great on the Apple Watch Series 4. Now Apple actually has added some new health features to the Apple Watch. There's two important health features being added to the Series 4 Apple Watch, and the first would be fall detection. Unfortunately, this is a feature that you really can't test all too well. Apple has actually done a pretty good job of doing some false positives to make sure it actually identifies when you fall, so it's kind of really hard to trick the sensor. And if you're actually falling, it's like a real fall. You can't really test that because you're gonna actually hurt yourself. So I'm just gonna hopefully take it on a faith value that this stuff does work. It will alert emergency services. That is a really great feature to have. This feature is actually disabled by default if you're younger than 65, I believe. I would actually recommend enabling it, especially if you're running and you have a cellular version of the Apple Watch. You never know what will happen if you'll fall and hurt yourself, or maybe you get hit by a car if there's a hit and run. Maybe the Apple Watch will detect that and be able to alert emergency services right away. Usually when you have an issue, an injury, the faster you get medical attention, the better chance there is to actually help you out and to make sure there are no issues. So I definitely recommend enabling the fall detection. And if you have any issues there, hopefully that's there to help, especially if you're older. That's going to be a really cool thing to have. If you have elderly parents, you might want to look into getting them a Series 4 Apple Watch. The second feature actually isn't available yet. Apple said it's going to be coming soon in an update, and that is the electrocardiogram. I really wanted to test this feature out before my review, and I've actually waited to see if they would release it, but as of this review, it's actually not released yet, so unfortunately I can't test it. I can't give you any opinion on it. There hasn't been any reviews on it. It is a cool looking feature. If it does what it says it does, that is going to be a huge feature for a lot of people. Unfortunately, I just can't recommend it at this point because I haven't tested it. So as a reviewer, I just can't give you my opinion on it, unfortunately. So you've probably noticed in this review, there haven't been too many cons. I am a big proponent of the Apple Watch. Again, I lost over 100 pounds with it, so this has definitely been the best version I've ever used, and there's very little cons to mention. However, I do have one big con, and that is just the starting price, especially on the cellular version of this watch. For the cellular version of the 44mm I'm wearing, it's going to be $520. It's a lot to spend on a watch, and it's almost as much as buying an iPhone in previous years, so that is a lot of money to drop on the watch, especially when the Series 3 Apple Watch with cellular started at $420 last year. And it does get more reasonable if you're just going to the Wi-Fi version. If you don't need the cellular option, if you don't plan on streaming music while you're running, if you don't plan on streaming podcasts, if you don't want to get notifications and messages or calls while you're away from your phone, you could definitely get by with the Wi-Fi version, and that only starts at $400, which is what the original Apple Watch started at, so that is a much more reasonable price. So the main conclusion I want to get away from this video is the Series 4 Apple Watch worth getting, and that is a resounding yes. Even the cellular version at that higher price, if those features are important to you, if paying the extra $10 a month is important to you to be constantly connected, I know it is for me, definitely get the Apple Watch Series 4. Even if you're coming from a Series 2 Apple Watch, a Series 1 Apple Watch, this is such a huge improvement that I really think you're going to enjoy the new design, just how fast the processor is, those new health features, everything just works so well together. This is the best Apple Watch Apple's ever released. It is the ultimate Apple Watch. I know that's silly because they upgrade them every year. Obviously they get better, but the design elements, the speed, everything works so well together. There's never been a better time to buy an Apple Watch. If you've never bought an Apple Watch, if you've been curious about getting one, and this is your first time, you could even get the Series 3 for $279, but I'd recommend you skip that. I'd recommend you skip the Series 3 even though it's $279. That is an attractive price point for a lot of people, but I'd really recommend you spend the extra $130 and just get the Series 4 Apple Watch. I really recommend the Series 4 Apple Watch. It's the best Apple Watch Apple's ever released by a long shot, and there's never been a better time to buy. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the Apple Watch Series 4 in the comments below. If you like the video, make sure you guys give it a like. If you want to see more from my channel, including more Apple Watch content, make sure you guys subscribe. If you want to help the channel out in any way, we now have merchandise, so you can definitely support the channel, support me out by buying that merchandise. You guys have done so already, so thank you so much for doing so. And thank you guys for watching all the way through if you did. This might be a long video by the time I'm done recording it, so thank you so much if you actually stuck through, watched my entire review. Thank you so much. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone.